There's a fear that controls most men's lives. It's not the fear of death or failure. It's the fear of being alone. The fear that if you stop compromising, stop agreeing, stop bending yourself into shapes that please others, everyone will leave. This fear keeps you small. It keeps you saying yes when you mean no. It keeps you nodding along with conversations that bore you. It keeps you in relationships that drain you, jobs that diminish you, friendships that exist only because you're useful. But here's what nobody tells you. You're already alone. You're alone inside a version of yourself that isn't really you. You're alone inside relationships built on who you pretend to be. You're alone inside a life designed to keep others comfortable rather than make you strong. The title of this video isn't a threat, it's a liberation. Because once you accept that you might lose everyone, you discover something powerful. You'd rather be alone as yourself than surrounded by people who only like your mask. Most men live their entire lives afraid of this moment. They die having never shown their real face to the world. They accumulate relationships like insurance policies, believing that quantity equals security. But relationships built on false versions of yourself aren't relationships. They're performances with an audience. The man who's ready to lose everyone isn't cruel or antisocial. He's honest. He understands that authentic connection requires authentic expression. He knows that the people worth keeping will appreciate his truth, and the people who leave were never really there for him anyway. This readiness to lose everyone doesn't mean you want to lose everyone. It means you're willing to find out who's really in your corner. It means you're ready to discover which relationships can survive your authenticity and which ones were just elaborate forms of mutual pretending. Think about your closest relationships right now. How many of them would survive if you stopped managing other people's emotions? How many would last if you stopped saying what they want to hear? How many are based on who you really are versus who you think they need you to be? This isn't about being difficult or provocative. It's about being real. It's about understanding that a life lived for other people's approval is not your life. It's theirs. You're just the actor they hired to play a role. The readiness to lose everyone is really the readiness to find yourself. Because buried under all the compromises, all the people-pleasing, all the careful navigation of other people's feelings, there's a man who knows what he thinks, feels what he feels, and wants what he wants. That man has been waiting for you to have the courage to let him emerge. The question is, are you ready to risk everything to meet him?
Look at your phone. Count the relationships that energize you versus the ones that drain you. Be honest. Most men discover that they're surrounded by energy vampires, people who take more than they give, demand more than they offer, expect more than they provide. These relationships exist because you've been afraid to lose them. You've accepted bad deals because you thought having someone was better than having no one. You've tolerated disrespect because you believed connection required compromise. You've given more than you received because you feared what would happen if you stopped. But energy vampires don't love you. They love what you do for them. They love how you make them feel. They love the service you provide, the problems you solve, the validation you offer. Remove your usefulness and watch how quickly they disappear. The man who's ready to lose everyone stops feeding energy vampires. He stops being the friend who always listens but never gets heard. He stops being the partner who always accommodates but never gets considered. He stops being the colleague who always helps but never gets helped. This creates immediate friction. Energy vampires don't like it when their supply gets cut off. They'll call you selfish, changed, distant. They'll tell you that you're not the man they thought you were. Good, you're not. You're becoming the man you actually are. Some will adapt to your new boundaries. They'll learn to give as much as they take. They'll start considering your needs, not just their own. They'll prove that the relationship was real, not just transactional. These people are worth keeping. Others will leave. They'll find someone else to drain, someone else to use, someone else who's afraid to demand reciprocity. Let them go. Their departure is proof that they were never really there for you. They were there for what you provided. The fear of losing these draining relationships comes from a scarcity mindset. You believe that if you lose them, you'll have nothing. But nothing is better than something that slowly destroys you. Emptiness is better than being filled with the wrong people. This process of relationship audit isn't cruel. It's necessary. You can't build authentic connections while maintaining fake ones. You can't attract people who value you while surrounding yourself with people who use you. You can't become who you're meant to be while staying connected to people who need you to stay who you were. Here's something I want you to think about, and maybe share in the comments if it resonates. What's one relationship in your life that consistently drains your energy but you've been afraid to address? Not to attack anyone, just to acknowledge that these dynamics exist. Sometimes naming the pattern is the first step to changing it. The relationships that survive your authenticity are the only ones worth having. The people who stay when you stop performing are the only ones who were really there. The connections that deepen when you get real are the only ones that were real to begin with. Ready to find out who's actually in your corner?
Authenticity has a price. It costs you the illusion of universal approval. It costs you relationships that were never real. It costs you the safety of being agreeable to everyone. Most men aren't willing to pay this price. They'd rather live a comfortable lie than an uncomfortable truth. But here's what they don't understand. The price of authenticity is nothing compared to the cost of living someone else's life. Every day you spend being who others want you to be is a day stolen from who you actually are. Every year you waste maintaining fake relationships is a year lost to finding real ones. The authentic man accepts that he won't be for everyone. He understands that his opinions will create disagreement. He knows that his boundaries will create conflict. He realizes that his standards will create distance, and he's okay with this because he'd rather be genuinely disliked than falsely loved. This doesn't mean being rude or inconsiderate. It means being honest about who you are and what you stand for. It means speaking your truth even when it's unpopular. It means setting boundaries even when they're inconvenient for others. It means living by your values even when others question them. The world will test your commitment to authenticity. It will offer you shortcuts back to approval. It will tempt you with the easy path of agreement. It will pressure you to return to the version of yourself that caused less friction. These tests are necessary. They separate the men who want to be authentic from the men who are willing to pay for it. Some tests are obvious. The friend who disappears when you stop being available 24/7. The colleague who gets cold when you stop agreeing with every idea. The family member who guilts you for having different values. These departures hurt, but they clarify. They show you who was there for you versus who was there for their version of you. Other tests are subtle. The slow fade of people who can't handle your new directness, the decreased invitations when you stop being the agreeable guy, the quiet disapproval of those who preferred you when you were easier to manage. These losses accumulate slowly, but they add up to the same thing: freedom. The price of authenticity includes periods of loneliness. There will be times when standing in your truth means standing alone. There will be moments when being real means being isolated. There will be seasons when being yourself means being without others who can't handle that self. This loneliness isn't permanent, but it's real. It's the space between who you were pretending to be and who you actually are. It's the gap between fake relationships ending and real relationships beginning. It's the silence before your true voice finds its audience. But this temporary loneliness is preferable to permanent inauthenticity. Better to be alone with yourself than surrounded by people who don't know you. Better to have genuine solitude than fake company. Better to be honestly isolated than dishonestly connected. The price of authenticity is high, but it comes with a guarantee. Everyone who stays after you pay it is worth keeping. Everyone who loves you after you stop performing actually loves you. Everyone who respects you after you stop people-pleasing actually respects you. The question isn't whether you can afford to be authentic. The question is whether you can afford not to be. Most men fear solitude because they've never experienced it authentically. They confuse loneliness with aloneness. They mistake isolation for independence. They don't understand that solitude isn't the absence of connection, it's the presence of self. When you're ready to lose everyone, you discover the power of your own company. You stop needing constant validation because you learn to validate yourself. You stop seeking endless entertainment because you become interesting to yourself. You stop fearing quiet because you realize that's where your strength lives. Solitude is where you remember who you are without other people's opinions attached. It's where your authentic thoughts emerge without the pressure to make them palatable. It's where your real desires surface without the need to justify them to others. It's where you rediscover the man who exists independent of roles, relationships, and responsibilities. The man who can be alone without being lonely is dangerous to a world that profits from your insecurity. He can't be manipulated through the fear of abandonment. He can't be controlled through the threat of isolation. He can't be pressured through the promise of belonging. He belongs to himself first. This strength doesn't make you antisocial. It makes you selective. When you're comfortable with solitude, you don't accept bad company just to avoid being alone. When you can entertain yourself, you don't need others to constantly stimulate you. When you can validate yourself, you don't need others to constantly affirm you. Solitude teaches you the difference between want and need. You might want companionship, but you don't need it for survival. You might want approval, but you don't need it for self-worth. You might want connection, but you don't need it for completion. This distinction is liberation. But developing comfort with solitude requires practice. Most men fill every quiet moment with noise, music, podcasts, videos, conversations. They're afraid of silence because they're afraid of what they might discover in it. They avoid being alone with their thoughts because they're not sure they'll like what they find. Start small. Spend time alone without entertainment. Sit with your thoughts without immediately distracting yourself. Take walks without listening to anything. Eat meals without scrolling. Drive without music. Notice the discomfort. Notice the urge to fill the space with something external. Resist that urge. In these moments of genuine solitude, you'll discover something remarkable. You're more interesting than you thought. Your own thoughts are more engaging than most conversations. Your own company is more reliable than most relationships. Your own presence is more valuable than most entertainment. This doesn't mean becoming a hermit. It means becoming someone who chooses connection rather than needs it, someone who engages from strength rather than weakness, someone who can offer authentic presence because he's comfortable with authentic absence. The man who's comfortable in solitude brings a different energy to relationships. He's not desperate for connection, so his connections are cleaner. He's not afraid of conflict, so his conversations are deeper. He's not needy for approval, so his interactions are more genuine. Solitude isn't punishment for being authentic. It's preparation for authentic relationships. It's where you develop the strength to stand alone so you can choose to stand with others. It's where you learn to be complete in yourself so you can connect with others from wholeness, not emptiness. The readiness to lose everyone includes the readiness to find yourself. And that discovery happens in the quiet moments when it's just you and your truth. Real friendship is rare because most men have never been tested by authenticity. They maintain surface-level connections based on shared activities, convenient geography, or mutual usefulness. But real friendship only emerges when someone sees who you actually are and chooses to stay anyway. The decision to be ready to lose everyone is really a decision to test every relationship. You stop managing other people's comfort. You stop hiding parts of yourself that might create friction. You stop being the agreeable version that everyone likes but no one really knows. This creates a natural sorting process. Some friendships won't survive your authenticity. The drinking buddy who only knows the fun version of you. The work friend who connects through shared complaints. The childhood friend who relates to who you used to be but can't adapt to who you're becoming. These departures aren't failures, they're clarifications. But the friendships that survive this test become unbreakable. They're based on who you actually are, not who you perform to be. They can handle your real opinions, your genuine emotions, your authentic presence. They don't require you to be anyone other than yourself. Real friends don't need you to be constantly positive. They can handle your bad days without trying to fix you. They don't need you to agree with everything they say. They can engage with your different perspectives without taking them personally. They don't need you to be always available. They respect your boundaries without feeling rejected. The test of real friendship isn't shared interests or convenient proximity. It's mutual authenticity. Can you be real with this person without fear of judgment? Can they be real with you without you taking it personally? Can you disagree without the relationship suffering? Can you have boundaries without creating resentment? Most connections fail these tests. They're too fragile for genuine honesty, too dependent on agreement to handle different opinions, too needy to respect boundaries, too shallow to survive real depth. The failure isn't yours, it's the relationship's. It was never built to handle authentic human connection. But when you find friendship that passes these tests, you discover something precious: unconditional acceptance. Not the kind that enables weakness, but the kind that sees your whole self and chooses relationship anyway. Not the kind that avoids difficult conversations, but the kind that engages them from love rather than fear. These tested friendships become your foundation. They're the relationships that energize rather than drain you. They're the connections that challenge you to grow rather than pressure you to stay the same. They're the bonds that strengthen under pressure rather than break at the first sign of conflict. Building these friendships requires courage. You have to risk rejection to find acceptance. You have to risk conflict to find peace. You have to risk loneliness to find genuine connection. Most men aren't willing to take these risks. They prefer the safety of surface-level relationships to the uncertainty of authentic connection. But the man who's ready to lose everyone discovers that he gains everything worth having. The few who stay after he stops performing are worth more than the many who leave when he starts being real. Quality replaces quantity. Depth replaces breadth. Authenticity replaces performance. The test of real friendship isn't whether people like you when you're easy to like. It's whether they love you when you're hard to handle. It's whether they stay when you're difficult. It's whether they choose you when you're not convenient. Most will fail this test. The few who pass it are the only ones worth keeping. The readiness to lose everyone includes the power to walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. This isn't about being difficult or dramatic. It's about understanding that your life is finite, your energy is precious, and your time is irreplaceable. You can't afford to waste these resources on people or situations that diminish rather than enhance your existence. Walking away is a superpower that most men never develop. They stay in jobs that crush their spirits because leaving feels risky. They remain in relationships that drain their energy because ending them feels cruel. They maintain friendships that offer nothing because cutting them off feels harsh. This isn't loyalty, this is fear. The power to walk away gives you leverage in every situation. When you're not desperate to stay, you can't be taken advantage of. When you're not afraid to leave, you can't be controlled. When you're not attached to outcomes, you can't be manipulated. This power doesn't make you cold, it makes you free. But developing this power requires overcoming deeply ingrained programming. Society teaches men to stick with things, to push through, to never give up. These lessons serve a purpose in certain contexts, but they become destructive when applied indiscriminately. Sometimes the strongest choice is to leave. Sometimes the wisest decision is to quit. Sometimes the most courageous action is to walk away. The key is learning to distinguish between temporary difficulty and permanent toxicity. Temporary difficulty can be overcome through persistence. Permanent toxicity can only be escaped through departure. Knowing the difference requires honest assessment of your situation without the emotional attachments that cloud judgment. Walking away from jobs that don't utilize your potential frees you to find work that does. Walking away from relationships that don't appreciate your worth opens space for connections that do. Walking away from friendships that drain your energy creates room for bonds that energize you. Every departure is also an arrival. But walking away requires facing uncertainty. You don't know what comes next. You can't guarantee that what you find will be better than what you leave. You have to trust that removing what's wrong creates space for what's right. This trust is scary, but it's necessary for growth. Most men cling to known problems rather than face unknown possibilities. They stay in situations that slowly destroy them because the destruction is familiar. They choose the security of suffering over the uncertainty of potential happiness. This isn't wisdom, this is cowardice disguised as commitment. The man who's ready to lose everyone has developed the courage to face uncertainty. He'd rather risk temporary discomfort than guarantee permanent dissatisfaction. He understands that holding on to the wrong things prevents him from finding the right things. He knows that clearing space is necessary for filling it with better options. This power extends beyond relationships to every area of life. Walking away from habits that don't serve you. Walking away from beliefs that limit you. Walking away from environments that diminish you. Walking away from versions of yourself that no longer fit who you're becoming. The power to walk away isn't about burning bridges, it's about choosing your battles. It's not about being difficult, it's about being discerning. It's not about avoiding commitment, it's about committing to what actually matters rather than what you think you should care about. When you develop this power, everything changes. People treat you differently because they sense you're not desperate to stay. Opportunities improve because you're not clinging to mediocre ones. Relationships deepen because they're chosen rather than endured. The readiness to lose everyone includes the readiness to gain everything worth having. But gaining requires letting go first.
In the end, every man must face this moment, the choice between being accepted for who he pretends to be or being rejected for who he actually is. Most men never make this choice consciously. They drift through life pleasing others, avoiding conflict, maintaining relationships that require them to be someone else. They die surrounded by people who never really knew them. But some men choose differently. They choose authenticity over approval. They choose truth over comfort. They choose integrity over acceptance. These men discover something profound. The willingness to stand alone is the foundation of genuine strength. The man who stands alone isn't antisocial or bitter. He's selective. He's learned that his presence is valuable and shouldn't be given freely to those who don't appreciate it. He's discovered that his time is precious and shouldn't be wasted on people who don't reciprocate respect. He's realized that his energy is finite and should be invested in relationships that multiply rather than divide it. This man has made peace with the possibility of losing everyone because he's found the one person who can never leave, himself. He's developed a relationship with his own thoughts, values, and desires that doesn't depend on external validation. He's become complete in himself, which makes him dangerous to those who profit from his incompleteness. When you're ready to lose everyone, you discover that you don't actually lose everyone. You lose the wrong people. The right people stay. They're drawn to your authenticity because they've been searching for it themselves. They respect your boundaries because they understand the strength required to maintain them. They value your presence because they know it's chosen, not compelled.
The relationships that survive your readiness to end them become unshakable. They're built on solid ground rather than shifting sand. They can handle conflict because they're not based on constant agreement. They can survive distance because they're not dependent on constant contact. They can weather change because they're rooted in who you are rather than what you do. This transformation ripples outward. Your children see a father who values truth over popularity. Your partner experiences someone who chooses them rather than needs them. Your friends encounter someone who offers genuine connection rather than convenient compliance. Your colleagues meet someone who can't be manipulated because he's not afraid to be alone. But the deepest change happens within you. You stop living your life as a reaction to other people's expectations. You start making decisions based on your own judgment rather than the crowd's approval. You begin to trust yourself more than you trust the opinions of others. You develop the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever comes, including solitude. The man who's ready to lose everyone becomes magnetic to those worth knowing. His willingness to be authentic gives others permission to be authentic. His comfort with solitude makes him attractive to those who are also complete in themselves. His strength in standing alone makes him a worthy companion for those ready to stand together. This isn't about becoming isolated or difficult. This is about becoming real. It's about understanding that the greatest gift you can offer the world is your authentic self, not your agreeable performance. It's about recognizing that genuine connection requires genuine expression, even when that expression costs you relationships. The choice is yours. You can continue living for other people's approval, maintaining relationships that require you to be someone else, staying in situations that slowly diminish who you are. Or you can choose authenticity, accept the risk of loss, and discover what's possible when you're willing to lose everyone to find yourself. The man who stands alone stands strongest. The man who's ready to lose everyone gains everything worth having. The man who chooses authenticity over approval discovers that the right people will love him not despite his truth, but because of it. The moment is now. The choice is yours. The only question remaining is, are you ready to lose everyone to find yourself? Because the man who emerges from that choice is the man you were always meant to be.